I'm the president of the GMAA. We're very excited to host this webinar titled Senior Executive Women in Aviation. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Aircraft Acquisition Fleet, and their president, Brian Cunningham, for stepping up and helping us with this webinar. What is the GMAA? The Greater Miami Aviation Association is a nonprofit organization established in 1927 by industry giants such as Glenn Curtis, Juan Tripp, and Eddie Rickenbacker to promote the interest of the aviation industry in South Florida. Their first goal was to establish an international airport in Miami, which they achieved a year later when MIA was established. Today, the GMAA is still the main advocacy group for its more than 300 member companies. Our other mission is to assist young aviators wishing to pursue careers in our industry. Over the past 15 years, we've expanded our activities, and we have granted over $750,000 in scholarships to students wishing to pursue a lifelong dream to become pilots, technicians, and flight controllers, but lacking the financial means. Each year, we are assisting at least 20 such university and technical college students with generous scholarships. We're very proud that many of our scholarship recipients are women, and we are eager to continue and promote this trend. With us today are many students who are enrolled in such programs, and they want to hear from some of the veterans who have been there and done that. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention two very special people who are listening in today, Rivian Murphy and Robert Korn. Rivian's family owns FEAM, F&E Aircraft Maintenance and Engineering, and Robert is the president of Carlisle Aviation. Both of them and many others have contributed to our scholarship fund. We have an incredible panel for you today. Please go to our website and check out the resumes of our accomplished speakers. They truly are trailblazers and represent the many aspects of our industry. From the OEM side, we have Donna Rinek, the president of Boeing Latin America. Ambassador Rinek has also had a distinguished career in the State Department. Lee Capel is the president of TSI Aviation. They are a distributor of spare parts to commercial and military programs. She's also on the board of ASA, CCMA, and GMAA. Jeanette Eaton is a vice president for Sikorsky, and she is also a helicopter pilot. Vina Simonette is a professor at Florida Memorial University, Aviation and Safety Program. She's also a flight instructor and on the GMAA board. Anna Maria Robin is a vice president and co-owner of SkyMart, which is a distributor of parts and materials. And last but not least, backed by popular demand from our last year panel, is Caroline van der Drink, VP for SR Technique, who is a global provider of MRO solutions, and she holds a pilot's license as well. So, as you can see, very diverse, accomplished panel, I would say an inspiring group of leaders who deserve applause. I will ask them to tell us about their career path, their view of our industry, and to the audience, please, if Connie has not done that, mute your video, mute your audio, but use the Q&A button if you also have a question, and we will try to get to those questions towards the end. So, welcome, ladies. My first question is, how did you start your career in aviation, and how did your role evolve over the years? And Donna, let's start with you.
Hey, well, thank you, Aviv. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be joined by so many distinguished and accomplished colleagues. I have a one-word answer to the question, how did you start your career in aviation? And that word is accidentally. Yeah, I've been with Boeing almost 9 years now, but when I joined the company, I'm not an engineer. I had no aerospace background. I am not a pilot. I think maybe my only credential for aerospace was that I know all the Star Trek episodes, maybe even the dialogues by heart. And I used to read the Robert Heinlein science fiction books as a kid. But when I was asked to join Boeing, it was because I had regional expertise, specifically in Brazil, where Boeing was interested in opening an office. And as my boss, when he was recruiting me, said, we can teach you Boeing, but we can't teach you 30 years of experience in Latin America. So I joined to open an office in Brazil, and as my career evolved, regionally, I also learned a lot about the aerospace industry. I moved from the presidency of Brazil to the presidency of Latin America and the Caribbean for Boeing. And that meant, for example, I had to learn about supply chains because we have a huge supply base in Mexico. And I have to say, I find that one of the most fascinating aspects of our industry is how we make all of those million parts come together. I took on responsibility for Canada also, and there I had to learn about fabrication because we have 1,600 Canadians in a plant in Winnipeg making parts for every single one of our commercial aircraft. So I think the lesson from this rather unusual entry into aerospace and evolution in aerospace is that aerospace means many things. You might have a fascination for the career, and I've always loved flying, but maybe you're not an engineer. Maybe you can't see a way to getting your own pilot's license. But aerospace involves obviously important business interests in finance, important communications interests. How do we tell the industry's story? And in my case, it was an interest in geopolitics, and we are a global industry, and I think all of our companies are increasingly global. And so those are skills and experiences that you can bring also to this industry.
Super. I actually remember meeting you for the first time. I think it was at least 15 years ago when I was visiting Brazil with a delegation with Governor Jeb Bush at the time, and you were the ambassador. So.
Oh no, we were both children 15 years ago. I remember that.
Exactly.
Right, that was a long time, yeah.
All right, Lee, same question.
Thank you first of all for inviting me again to be part of your panel. Mine is a little different. I've been more on the private side of the industry. I started also kind of by accident. I answered an ad that said computer entry will train. And it happened to be for the company that I own now. I was just fresh out of high school and starting college and didn't have the ability to pay for it, so I had to get a job. So I started in aviation, totally fell in love with it, and by the time I was 18 years old, I was traveling through all of Latin America, selling spare parts and repair services for commercial and military operators. So it evolved where, I was studying computer science and accounting, and I started working with the software developers. Back then, it used to be actually McDonnell Douglas owned a software called Microdata. And I fell in love with the programming that they were using and developed things like what's called now teardown reports. We call them service reports. And from that, I learned the inside of the company and how it operated and applied that to my sales techniques to be able to sell our company to the airlines. I just totally, it's in my blood. I have evolved with it in so many different ways. It has provided an incredible experience most of my life, except I would say for this year with all our issues. It's been, an incredible ride. And, I work now with some of my colleagues on this panel as well to try to develop different programs as well to help women in aviation, and teach younger girls that there is other opportunities out there, not just to be a technician, but or a pilot. There's all kinds of avenues to pursue in the aviation. And I always tell everybody I hire to, if you start in aviation, you never leave. You know, it gets into your blood. So thank you. Mine is quick and short, but it's been an incredible ride.
Thank you, Lee. And Jeanette?
Hi, everyone, and thank you as well. My career started as an electrical engineer working at Sikorsky Aircraft, and I ended up, anytime there was an opportunity, whether it was a further education, a master's degree, a different position, I always opened myself up and went for it and said yes. And I think that was an important lesson I learned, to open yourself up to opportunities and never say no. And that led me into program management of our international Blackhawks. And eventually I said I wanted to get into sales. So I had a mentor who said, well, you've got the technical background, but you need to walk the walk as well as talk the talk, or these men are going to chew you up and spit you out. So at that point I said, okay, I can't afford to be a helicopter pilot right now. Let me get my fixed wing rating. And I did. I got my commercial instrument, and then I was able to transition to rotorcraft and negotiate my ratings. I moved over to Bell Helicopter. I was at Sikorsky, then Bell, and then Sikorsky brought me back into sales. And I'm responsible for all market segments. My passion is our Firehawk helicopter, which is in firefighting, because I think there's a brotherhood there, and it's about our product saving lives. And I'm humbled as a pilot when I see what our customers can do. And that was another kind of a lesson learned for me, is not only opening yourself out, but I never realized that I would have a passion for flying. And once I did, I'm like, you know, that's the key to my success. Find your passion and be authentic to that goal. Because when you're authentic, you're going to shine and you're going to outperform, and your authenticity is the heart of your power. That's what's going to help make you be successful. And when you have the combination, you know, of that authenticity and passion, people are going to trust you, and then it's led to leadership careers. I think in a nutshell, I know, Donna, you said you never know where it's going to lead you, and aviation is just an amazing opportunity that we all want to be part of. And I love it. I love it. I absolutely, I'll never leave. I don't think I'd ever leave this industry because it is my passion.
Terrific. Thank you. And Anna Maria?
Well, thank you, GMMA, for allowing me to be on this very distinguished panel. Very excited about it. But it's funny, as Lee mentioned about the blood, for me, it's in the blood. Both of my grandfathers flew. My dad and my uncle flew. My brother still flies regularly. There's something about aviation that once it gets into your blood, you're hooked. And I've been lucky enough to work in the family business for most of my career. And it just, what's exciting about it, it's never the same day twice. You're always learning. So it's, for me, it was destiny.
Destiny and accident, and it's in everyone's blood. And I can't wait to hear what Vina and Caroline has to say. Vina.
Hello, and my thanks to GMAA as well for this opportunity. Yes, aviation is exciting. There's nothing in the world like it. I often say, outside of God and the family, this is my next love. And my career started in 1989 when I went to be a customer service representative for Bahamas Air at Miami International Airport. And let me say this, I'm the 14th child of 14 children. So I have always had to make myself known, so to speak. And as a result of that, I was always pushing for more of myself, to be better. And I always wanted more. And so, you know, that helped propel me into management. And, but again, that wasn't sufficient. And once in management, I still wanted more. I always loved the idea of flight. When I was a child, my mother traveled a lot and she would take me with her. And so that's where I first became fascinated with aviation and airplanes. And so as a result of that, that propelled me to get, my licenses, commercial multi-instrument flight instructor, and of course a degree from Florida Memorial. I must say that, because since that's also my place of employment, and a double master's from Embry-Riddle didn't hurt either. And I'm still propelling myself. I'm currently working on my doctorate's degree in international business. But in terms of aviation, it allowed me to do so many things. I've also had the opportunity to work for Lockheed Martin, and it's just been a wonderful blessing. But in 2008, Captain Tolbert, that most of you know, he was going to teach at Florida Memorial, and he was taking early retirement to teach there. And he told me, I want you to come with me. And of course, January 2009, I joined him there. 2 years ago, unfortunately, Captain Tolbert passed away rather suddenly. And when he did, I became the interim chair for the Department of Aviation and Safety at Florida Memorial University. A week ago, one of our members, board members who's on the call now, George Guerra, I stepped down and George took that place. So it is really awesome for me to help young people, particularly young women, to pursue their careers in aviation, to help them any which way I can. I think I'm in an awesome place to make that a reality for them, that when they have goals, it does not just remain a goal, but that goal can become a reality. And 31 years of an awesome career in this industry that I've had, I must say, one, I'm blessed, and two, I look forward to sharing that with others and helping them realize their dreams as well.
Well, Vina, thank you. We're very blessed that you are a colleague of ours on the board of the GMA, and it's just wonderful to work with you. And like I said before, last and not least, Caroline.
Hi, Aviv. Nice to be back. I started my career in Belgium in aviation when I was 14, 15 years old, helping my mom refuel aircraft. One day she had 100 aircraft to refuel, and she said, "You have to come." I said, "I hate airplanes. Please don't make me do this." She says, "Yeah, just write invoices." So from that day on, every weekend, every vacation, I got to hang out at the airport and putting fuel into Cessnas, Pipers, but also DC-8s and 707s. These were all mostly cargo airplanes or sports flying. So when I had to make a decision what to do after high school, it was easy. I was going to do something aviation related, and my parents gave me the opportunity to go to America and attend Embry-Riddle to study aerospace engineering and also pursue my private pilot license as a hobby. When I graduated in '91, the economy was not great. I sent out 512 letters on a typewriter, because back then we didn't have all these word processors like we do today, asking for an entry-level job. I only got 2 phone interviews and 1 in-person interview. I started at a small company in Monte Carlo, Monaco. They represented Fairchild Aircraft, which was at that time a small regional turboprop OEM based in San Antonio, Texas. I got involved and I started as a performance engineer, and then had a boss who gave me the opportunity to go into sales and marketing. And soon I just stayed in sales. With increasing responsibility, I worked next to Jeanette at Sikorsky. I worked selling engines for Pratt & Whitney. It's been wonderful to take the technical skills that I learned at Embry-Riddle and at Fairchild and use those in the sales of aircraft or engines or MRO opportunities, which I do now for SR Techniques.
Fantastic. So, I mean, you know, you guys have had tremendous careers. And I think there's so much commonality between, even though you're in different aspects of aviation, there is so much commonality. And I think that for every career, regardless of whether or not it's in aviation, you can always point out to an event, you can point out to a person that inspired you, pushed you, helped you get through a crisis during your career. And for the benefit of the audience, could you point out a person, a time in your career where you said that this has made a big difference? Let's start with Lee.
Myself here. Well, thank you. I've had a multitude of people who have inspired me through my career. I must say the first one was when I started working at TSI, was the president at that point, who gave me my first opportunity only because I spoke Spanish. And he said to me, I have some customers who have just arrived and they don't speak English. Could you help us out? Well, since I was a little girl, I've always had a passion for sales. I sold anything. I signed my mom up to be an Avon rep when I was 8, and I was the Avon rep walking around the whole neighborhood trying to sell products. So when he called me into the conference room with these customers, I knew from programming the system what the company did and the insides of it. So I just started talking to these customers, and from that moment on, when the customers called, they just want to speak to me, and they and it was just came naturally. But he gave me the opportunity. I remember after that asking him, can I have a position in sales, or what does it take? And at first he looked at me and he says, well, you're a woman. And I said, yes. And he goes, I don't think women, work in this industry. And I said, why not? And he goes, well, because especially at that point, I would say 90% of our business was Latin America. He said, it's a very macho type of industry and so on. And I said, listen, I respect myself, and that's number one. And I will demand respect from everybody I deal with. And he looked at me and he says, come on, I'm going to take you on my first trip. And from there on, I started traveling everywhere. So I was 18, 19 years old, traveling through South America selling. And then I had a multitude of people that would see me and the effort that I put into it and the way I respected myself, that would, I remember one of the admirals from Mexico City. And I always remember him because he had a gunshot wound right here in the middle of his head. And he actually was so proud of me. He took off his jacket and gave it to me. Until this day, which was probably 30 some years ago, I still have that jacket hanging in my closet. So all these little things you gather from people in the industry. I would say to anybody, any young girl inspiring to be in aviation, is respect yourself and always do what you think is the right thing, and don't vary from that. Keep on track, and it's endless opportunities.
Wonderful. And I'm sure, Jeanette, you have a great story too.
I somewhat shared it. My event, or the person was that mentor who told me to be credible, I really need to get my pilot's license. And this was over 20 years ago, where there were no women in sales. And that, again, I realized I had a passion for aviation. So it really helped excel me personally and professionally with my customers. There's nothing like, for example, I'm going to demo NYPD, and if I'm the one getting out of the cockpit, they're looking at me, they're saying, wow, she does know what she's talking about. So my credibility really jumped, and that, I think, was the turning point in my career. And then once I started doing that, I just became inspired by my customers, what they do on a daily basis with our aircraft. And to this day, I still get inspired by their mission, and some of, when I hear stories of, say, LA County Fire out on these devastating fires and watching what they're doing, it's inspirational to me. But it was definitely that getting my license, that advice was a turning point for me. And then I heard a number of people talk about mentorship. I really feel strongly about I need to say give back to the community or be an ambassador to aviation for all these kids coming up, because somebody gave me a chance. So I try to do my best whenever I can, just take someone flying with me on the weekends or just give them that exposure. And some of the people that I've taken for their first flights, they're captain for American Airlines now, or their careers. So I think what we do makes a big difference when you give kids that exposure.
Agreed.
Like,
And
For me, it's actually a little bit closer to home. It's actually my family. My dad and my brother started the company 35 years ago, and my dad was always the consummate salesman. He was the eternal optimist. He always said yes and then figured out how to actually get it done. He wasn't quite sure when he said yes how it was going to get done, but he figured out a way. And then my mom was a CFO of the company from the very beginning. She was always questioning why. And even though we had the same last names, when she asked you a question, even you're the daughter, you better be prepared. And so she was always pushing us to be better. And then there's my brother, who knows absolutely everything there is to know about aviation. He eats, breathes, sleeps aviation, to the point where it's sometimes like, okay, turn it off. But it's inspiring just how passionate he is, and that passion translates to me as a sister, and then to the company as well. So definitely the family.
okay. And Vina, we know that AJ was one of your role models, but you've had a long and illustrious career. So tell us a nice story from this career, please.
Well, actually, excuse me, mine began even before that with Bessie Coleman. And Bessie Coleman, because of her story, and like myself, she had a lot of siblings. And she wasn't sure how it would happen for her either because of that. In addition to that, Bessie Coleman had other concerns with Jim Crow at the time in the United States. So, her having to hitch a ride on a Red Cross plane to France to learn how to fly, I always told myself, you don't have that problem. You are now in an environment where you can learn to fly here in the United States of America. So you don't have any problems. The other mentors that were really, really dear to me was the Tuskegee Airmen. I belonged to the Miami chapter of Tuskegee Airmen, and I was recruited by one of the originals, Leo Gray. So I used to hang out quite a lot with Leo Gray and Eldridge Williams. I would go into Miami-Dade and Broward schools with them, and they'd tell their stories, and it was just fascinating to me. Every time they would tell a story, it was different. And I regret that I didn't record those stories because now, having lost both of them recently, and they're not here anymore, I wish I had recorded those stories. But a lot of them, they're in my mind. They're etched and never to be deleted. But while I would go out with them, a lot of times they'd say, well, here's Vina, she's a pilot. And they would introduce me to these folks. And many students would say, well, I've never seen a Black female pilot. Or some of the instructors, the teachers would say that. And one school I had gone into in Miami, the principal there, I was introduced to her, and it turned out she's my cousin. She was in a hurry, and she was rushing off to do something. She turned around, she came back, and she said, what did you say your name was? And I told her, and she said, who is your daddy? And I thought, I know this woman didn't just ask me about my daddy. But I told her, and she said, she mentioned my grandparents' name, and I said, wait a minute, that's my grandma and grandpa's name. And she said, yeah, I'm your cousin. And then she told me, I'm, your Aunt Geneva's daughter. And I thought, oh my God. So, I've had wonderful mentors that I was around that, and because of that, she told me, she said, you're coming to my school twice a year, and you're going to go into other schools. So I didn't have a choice. After that, I was inspired to do so, but I was told what I was going to do. And so I've been going into schools and talking to students since and encouraging them. And it's just been absolutely amazing. And one of the persons that I've had an opportunity to inspire is actually now in Guinness World Book of Records, Barrington Irvin.
Yeah.
You all know of him. And Barrington actually came to Florida more because of me. I invited him to be a part of an OBEP event I was doing. He didn't have the money to come. And I said, well, I tell you what, I need you to work for me at the desk. If you work at the desk, you can come in for free. He said, my friend needs to come too. I said, well, two of you need to work the desk and you'll get in free. And now he's in the Guinness World Book of Records, you know, so he has now become an inspiration to me. How about that?
It's fantastic. I'm gonna ask another question, and for Carolyn and Donna, please also integrate some of the, you know, some of the answer to the question before. But the question I have is, you know, you've been in this industry for a while. Do you feel that there are more opportunities for women nowadays to obtain a senior position in the industry? And are there real efforts that are made to diversify, or it's still same old, same old? I'm going to start with Carolyn and then with Donna.
My parents were my inspiration. My dad had a full-time job working as an engineer and a manager, and he wanted to learn how to fly, but he didn't have the money. So he started a flight school so he could buy the aircraft, fly for free, and then get the money from students that were using the planes. And he put my aunt in charge. My aunt did not know anything about airplanes. Then he couldn't get fuel for the aircraft. So he said, fine, I'm starting my own refueling company. So he put my mother in charge. Again, she was a kindergarten teacher, did not know anything about aviation. This is 40 years ago. So back then, in our family, we did not see a glass ceiling because you're a woman, you can't do that, or because you don't have aviation experience, you can't do that. What I learned from that is that challenges, problems, they don't have to be obstacles. Just focus on the alternatives, do the proverbial out of the box thinking of wanting to go where you want to go. It's about working hard and learning that a job is not a 9-to-5 job. It doesn't stop because the clock says it's 5 o'clock. And as a woman in this industry, I think I've never felt that I didn't have an opportunity because I was a woman, because I wouldn't have accepted that as an answer. There's a lot of companies that have all kinds of diversity goals and programs, and be part of those programs, be part of those special groups, because today I believe there's actually more opportunities. But if in the company you want to go, there aren't, fight for them. Don't let that be an obstacle.
Thank you. Donna?
Yeah, so are there more opportunities for women in aerospace and aviation now? Certainly there are. I mean, for example, we have Leanne Corrett is the CEO of Boeing Defense, Space and Security. She's the first woman to head one of our 3 major business units. And I'm sure that wouldn't have happened, you know, a decade or more ago. I think there are more opportunities for women in general in society, right? Does that mean there are enough? No. We've made progress, but not enough progress. And I'm sort of on a soapbox in many ways, because I think it's a combination in aerospace, as it is in many sectors and in society, of public policies, of company practices. And as Caroline just said, that's something you can fight to change within a company, and personal responsibility. And I think it's important for young women in particular to realize that life is a series of choices, and every choice has a consequence. And you have to understand what those consequences are. So if you want a career in whatever sector, or in aviation in particular, there are some battles you are going to have to fight. Are you willing to fight those? What will that mean to other aspects of your life? Are you going to cut a piece of the pie out for work? It's not work-life balance. It's a pie that work fits into. And I think you have to, we've got a way to go. We have to keep fighting if we're going to be represented in aerospace as to the same level that we make up society. But I think that we also have to work on larger public policies that'll make it easier for all women to have careers in whatever sector. We can talk about childcare policies, for example. I think a lot of one thing this COVID crisis has done is made people aware of how much work women do still when they have that second career at home, and now maybe a third career homeschooling. So yeah, are there more opportunities? Sure, but we need to create even more.
Okay, and Jeanette, could we have your perspective as well? You've worked with some major corporations, American corporations, and I'm sure you have seen the evolution over your career. And is it where it needs to be? What more can we do?
I definitely have. I mean, when I started in the late 80s at Sikorsky, I would be in a room and I was the only female in that room. And it's, a couple meetings, actually maybe about a month ago, I was in a meeting and it was all women and all women within, at Sikorsky. And that really kind of surprised me because they were all leadership positions. But I think for me, what made a big change is when we moved over to Lockheed Martin. It was the culture of the company is really big on diversity and inclusion. The CEO, Marilyn Houston, a former CEO, right from the top down, and leadership, style and that culture starts at the top. So there's behaviors that she wouldn't tolerate it, and it flowed right down to management. So I agree with Donna. We have a lot more to come. We need more inclusion, because a lot of times, with HR, they'll hire people to meet our numbers, and then you forget about those people. And you have to, as a leader, I have to make sure that they're being treated fairly and given opportunities. But Caroline is right. You sometimes you just can't accept when something is being forced on you. You have to go fight for your right and your right to be treated properly. I mean, leadership is an honor, it's not a right. So you need to make sure you have that respect and then go after it. But I definitely, within the 30 years, like I said, I remember from being the only female in a room to now in a number of meetings where it's almost all women, which is unheard of at Sikorsky. So especially, helicopter aviation has always been male dominated, and it's a refreshing change.
Right. So we're making progress, but I can tell you that just recently I received a brochure and an invitation to some conference, and the conference is towards the end of the year. So I think everybody is being optimistic that maybe we'll have conferences by the end of the year. But I saw this panel and I was astounded. There were 18 people on the panel, but only one woman. So we got a long way to go before we see a more substantial change. And the change comes from leadership of leaders like you. And I wanted to ask Anna Maria, when you look at guiding principles in business, what do you think made you successful?
Well, for us, it starts with accountability. Keep your word. Do what you say you're going to do. Own your mistakes. Learn from them. Transparency, huge. I mean, with your team, with everybody. Communication, always good listening skills. And again, teamwork. But basically, it's accountability. That would be the top one.
Thank you. And same question, Vina.
For me, I really guide my life on 3 principles: God first, family second, career third. I believe anything that's led, for me anyway, with God first it's orderly. It will always allow me to do the right thing, and I believe great success comes from that. We also, as Anna just said, need to be good listeners. because people do have concerns, real concerns. You know, life happens, and it's important for us to listen to those people intently, listen with empathy, and act accordingly as a result of that. We must be concerned because we're only as great as the people that surround us. If we're not treating those people well, if we're not listening to them, if we're not empathetic to their concerns, then really and truly, what are we doing? How can we truly make people better? How can we make ourselves better? It is really, really important for us to be concerned about the people that we have working under us, that work around us. And we have to encourage them so that they too can come up. We don't want people to stay down. It's always important to pull people up with you. Everybody can get to the top at one point or another, but if you're not taking friends with you, you're lonely at the top. It's really, really important for us to be concerned about that and to treat people well.
Thank you. Caroline, same question, please.
Well, I agree with everybody's assessment so far. Accountability, focus on results. Don't forget about the customer, because without the customer, none of us have any businesses. Hard work. But one more thing that I have learned in the almost 30 years I've been working is not presenting your boss with problems, but present with solutions and alternatives. I think that helps you be seen as a professional and as a potential leader.
I think that's a great point. And I think this is what, as a boss, you're looking for from employees. I mean, I think if you don't hire people that are smarter than you in some areas, you're not as strong as you would like to be. You just have a bunch of yes women and men around you, and that's not enhancing the ability to lead the company to greater things. So I absolutely agree with you on that. Donna, your take on this question, please.
So I would just add, because I do agree with everything that's been said about accountability and teamwork and communication, celebration. I think you need to take the time to recognize when there are achievements in a team, in a company, and understand where your accomplishments fit in the history of the organization you're working with or for, and how you've advanced the values of that company too. Take a moment, enjoy what you've accomplished, and then use that as the foundation to do even more.
All right, and finally, Lee. You need to unmute.
I got it. Good.
That's a good principle.
So I totally agree. I think earlier we had talked about passion, and I think passion equals success. So no matter what your goals are, if you have passion, it doesn't become work, it becomes success. And with that also, like Donna said, share your experiences. If you have accomplishments, if you were able to do something that is worthy of celebration, share that with your coworkers, share that with your peers, so that they know the secrets of your success. It's I think in this industry, but in many industries, there's a lot of jealousies between peers, and I've had I guess the fortune in a way of not working on a very large company where you have to constantly fight a battle. But everybody that I've hired, or everybody that's come through my path, I've always said, share with your coworkers. Everybody's a team, and if you don't have that team, you're no one. And like Vina said, it's very lonely at the top, and you can never learn enough. So you learn from experiences, and I have a really good friend who's a big artist worldwide, but he's very much from Miami. He always says to me, nothing is a failure, everything's a lesson. And that's his whole attitude. And every time I start feeling down about something, whether it's what's happening in the industry and so on, I always think there's you know, this is happening for a reason, and we're going to come out of this stronger because we're all learning lessons in it. So that's my take on it.
Well, that's incredible. I just want to share with you also, I've been reading some of the responses from our audience, and, you know, they all very inspired. Wish that they could see you and meet with you and talk to you in person, which hopefully we're going to be able to do sometime soon. I mean, whether you've been in this industry for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, and you know, we always say aviation is a cyclical industry. I mean, we used to talk about back when I started, we used to talk about a 7-year cycle, and then you know, it stretched to a 10-year cycle. And I think at a certain point we started feeling like we were invincible, because it's been so many good years and such prosperity in the aviation industry and with the airlines, that maybe we let our guards down a little bit, and we are, you know, really going through a rough time. I mean, I know personally people who are going through a very rough time in our industry. And, you know, rough time is obviously the people on the lowest level or the mid-management level who have been laid off or furloughed, and need to think about, you know, how to support their family. But rough time is also for executives that need to make the decision. I need to cut, you know, some personnel. I need to cut some expenses. You know, who goes, who stays. So I wanted to ask you, and I want to start with Caroline. What are the challenges, you know, that you experience right now, and what's your vision about the future of the industry?
So the impact on the MRO segment of our aviation industry is facing a lot of challenges. But with every challenge comes also an opportunity. It pushes people and companies to find alternatives. For example, at SR Techniques, in our engine shop, we typically have people from our customer base come when we disassemble an engine to look at the parts, to make decisions what to do with parts. But with the borders closed, our customers can't come to Zurich. They can't see their parts. So we created what we call RT, which is our remote tabletop inspection. So by using the new technology we had to invent, we could make engine inductions possible again, albeit in smaller quantities than back in January of 2020. We can still continue our business. So challenges create opportunities. Obviously, we don't have as much business as we did before, so we are downsizing, we are restructuring. And if we look at the long-term impact on our industry, and specifically on the MRO, it's hard to predict because the disease is still evolving, and we still see a lot of borders being closed. But the analysis have shown that the demand that we saw at the beginning of 2020 is not going to come back for 2 to 3 years. So you got to find reasonable solutions to help your partners, to help your customers overcome this crisis.
Thank you. And Jeanette, same question?
Yeah, we definitely have challenges, and right now everyone is working from home. And I think, you know, I've read a lot of papers on maybe, you know, this is the way to start, but as time is going to develop, your teams are going to become more and more distant. So it's really important to have that communication with your team. The industry itself, you know, sales are, and our aircraft flight times are at an all-time low. But I think in the corporate market, we'll see that coming back because people don't want to be part of commercial transportation. They want their security and the privacy. So we really have to Caroline's point, we have to find a way to keep that connectivity with our customers, especially in sales. You know, Zoom has helped, at least you put a face to the name, but we need to get back to be able to travel so we can have that network and solution. So for our side of the business, Yeah, it's definitely having to work from home. At first, everyone loves it, but over a period of time, I think that's the challenge we're going to be facing for sure. And then also keeping those relationships with our customers, because relationships do matter. People want to buy from somebody they know and they trust. So having to keep that trust with them is just absolutely critical. Um, it's definitely tough times, but fingers crossed for a vaccine soon, and hopefully we get back to normal and that this isn't the new normal.
Thank you. And Donna, the same question.
Yeah, so the impact of the pandemic on Boeing, I think, has been well publicized, and it was particularly difficult because it came following the tragedies with the 737 MAX that resulted in the aircraft being grounded in March of 2019, which had already taken a toll on the company. I think it's involved a lot of soul searching about what the company will look like and what we need to do to stay important and relevant to our customers going forward. Some important things like changing our company values. We changed out our CEO. I think everyone is aware of what happened there, but we changed out our CEO, and our new CEO has put forth some new values that were just released that really are focused a lot on practical steps to get back to a confident situation for travelers and a situation where customers feel that being our partner brings them advantages over other partnerships that they might choose. And that might sound kind of contradictory for values, but in fact, if you say you want to be predictable to your customers, our customers are looking for a little bit of predictability from us right now and stability. So I think that that has been a step forward as the whole company looks at what the industry will look like. And I have to say, when the pandemic began, I heard from a lot of industry veterans, oh, we came back after 9/11, we came back after the crisis of 2008, we came back after SARS, this is just going to be something else. A few months, maybe a year, we'll be back. No one talks that way anymore. So it's been a real realization. And I have to say that for Boeing too, we are also looking a lot at what it means to have a diversity and inclusion program after the murder of George Floyd and the strengthening of the Black Lives Movement. What does that mean? What are the responsibilities for a company of our size with such an impact?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Boeing. I think I'm not really saying it because you're here. I'm just saying it because Boeing,
because why wouldn't you be, right? No.
Right. And Jeanette, I'm also a huge fan of Sikorsky and Lockheed, and I'm a huge fan of all your companies. But going back to Boeing, since William Boeing started this company over 100 years ago, it's been the bastion of our aviation industry. And so I feel that as Americans, we all need to support Boeing. So have there been mistakes made? Yes, but mistakes, someone said it before, you learn from mistakes, you improve, and then you move forward. And I'm very encouraged by the fact that, the FAA is getting ready to, say some positive things about the MAX flying again, hopefully by the end of this year. We need a strong Boeing for our industry. We do. And so Godspeed with that.
Thank you.
And I want to move to, because we're running out of time, and thank you all for hanging with us. I want to move to the last question, and if you could just limit it to maybe a sentence or two so that everyone has a chance to answer. And I want to start with you, Vina. If you could give an advice, and we have many students that are logged in and listening to you right now. We have people who have graduated and just starting in their career in aviation. If you could give an advice advice to someone who's just starting in this business, what would it be?
Follow your dreams. Never, ever give up. Hold the faith. Yes, things get rough, but in spite of that, there'll always be somebody at some point that will help you along the way, that will give you that push, especially when you need it the most. And that will make you feel like, it's worth it. It and truly is. In the end, you will be fulfilled, you'll be happy, and there's nothing like this industry. And you are definitely going to have a nice career here if you just hold on and never ever give up. Keep the faith.
What about you, Lee? What's your advice?
Follow your passion. Find something that you really love and stick to it. A lot of people try to make something, and because they're being pushed by parents or others, just find your own passion. When you love something, there's no stopping you.
I agree 100%. Jeanette?
I fall into the Lee camp that find your passion so you can be authentic. Figure out what makes you tick. Simon Sinek has a great TED talk called What's Your Why? And I think you really need to figure out what's your why, what is going to give you that passion so you can follow it.
Great.
Short and simple.
Yes. Anna Maria?
Well, as a lady said, it's about passion. Find something in aviation that you're curious about and learn as much as you can about it. Ask lots of questions. Be bold. Let your personality shine through. And lastly, just network. You never know where the opportunity is going to come through.
Terrific. And Caroline?
Well, there's a reason why Lee and Jeanette are my friends, because we have the same thought. Because if you have to get up every morning to go to work, you better love your job. No matter what industry, no matter what job, entry level, executive level, or in between, love your job, because you're going to have it for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So might as well do something you're really passionate about.
And I think, it's a perfect way to conclude this panel and with the word passion, because obviously without passion, none of us, collectively us, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, the collectively us would not be in this industry today, would not be optimistic about the future of aviation, even at times that are unprecedented that we see. I apologize for the people that have wanted to present some questions, but we have from the beginning limited this session to an hour. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart to these amazing leaders that have joined us today. Our next Zoom luncheon or meeting would be in August, and the theme would most likely be cargo airlines, one aspect of the industry that actually is doing well, cargo airlines, and we are looking forward to bringing you some of the leaders of the major cargo airlines and MRO providers. It's been a pleasure to be with you today. Don't forget the GMAA is supporting the aviation industry, so please support the GMAA any which way you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Okay, bye-bye.